welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Benita and I do practical lifestyle videos. So today we have like a back to school video. Recently over on Instagram, I posted a picture of my daughters for the school week going back to school. And so a lot of people started either commenting or DMing me about homeschool, because if you didn't know, I do school them here at home. You probably don't know my background. I am an educator. I have taught for over 10 years in the public sector. I did public school when I first graduated college, and then I did early childhood education shortly after that. And I spent the bulk of my 10-year span in early childhood education, then doing some adult education a few years later. So I have well over 10 years experience of education. And so recently here for the past I guess it's been 10 years that I've been, almost 10 years that I've homeschooled them, because they were very, very young when I started. My friend and I started homeschooling our children together. So I guess I've been in the education field 20 years then. Because 10 years in the private public school sector, and then almost 10 years home. So gosh, I didn't know it was that long. So anyway, a lot of people were asking me about how to homeschool, how do you do it? Do you do anything differently? What does that mean, educating at home? So I just wanted to maybe answer some of the questions here, because I started kind of, typing it out on Instagram. Then I said, you know what, this would be a good video. So let's just, in the honor of back to school, let's talk about homeschooling 101. So without further ado, we're gonna get started. So before we get started, I wanted to say that this video is for people who have already made up in their mind that they definitely want to school at home. So they wanna try homeschooling, or they've already tried it and they need tips and tricks, if you will. This is not a video to bash public school or private or any other type of education, but this is specifically about homeschool. So if this is not what you're looking for, then this video isn't for you. We're not gonna, blast each other in the comments. We're not gonna come for each other in the comments. We are just gonna specifically talk about homeschooling in this venture. Now, we can talk about, if you liked a video for me, why I personally chose to do something different with my kids based on my state and my public school system in North Carolina, then that's a different video. And it may be just a little bit of bashing going on in that one. But for this one, it's not. This is just for, you made up in your mind that homeschooling is for you, and this is the type of video. And if this is not what you're looking for, just go ahead and click out. And if you're an advocate for public school or something of that nature, this is not the video for you. This is people who are looking for something different and for school choice. The first rule, I guess, for homeschooling 101 would be there's no rules. I mean, really, there's no rules for homeschooling. You have got to do, pretty much make up your own rules. I hate to say as you go along, but it really is as you go along. The only rules that you have to know for sure and to stick to are the rules of your state. We live in the state of North Carolina, and the state is very clear about if you're going to school at home, what that means. We had to get certified in certain areas. We had to register our school with the Department of Non-Public Instruction. So we had to research and know the rules of our state. And once we did that, we made sure that we were in compliance that way. But as it relates to the actual rules, like rule number 1, blah, 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 there's really no rules. That's the beauty of what we do. That's the beauty of school choice, of taking your child's education into your own hands. You can pretty much do what you want. Okay, so the next thing, or the next rule I would say, is that for homeschooling is you really need to be clear with yourself and really know why you're homeschooling. What is your goal? What do you expect to get out of, pulling your children out of public school or private and homeschooling them yourself? So if it's you and a spouse, make sure you sit down with your spouse and you guys have clear rules of what your goals are. What do you expect to get out of the fact that you want to homeschool your children? So I am home full-time. My friend and we started other businesses under the umbrella of homeschooling. So I may refer to her as my business partner. But anyway, we met a lot in the very, very beginning, and we had to be clear about what our goals were. What did we expect to get out of this? Why were we even homeschooling? And you know, you just have to know that. And the reason why I say that, because it leads me to my next point, is that when it gets tough and you get kind of discouraged when you're doing homeschooling, you have to remind yourself what the end goal is. So that's why you need to know in the very, very beginning why it's important for you to do this, what your goals are. Because when things get tough, when your kids don't want to do it, when you don't want to do it, when it looks like you're not going to be able to, make it to the next step, you have to go back in your mind and remind yourself why we were even homeschooling in the first place, and you have to stick to it. You have to be consistent. We would stick to it, and we have so far to stick to it. This year we have two graduating, two originals graduating this year. Next year my daughter is graduating, and another student, and then a year after that my second daughter is graduating, and then I'm done. Then all of my children are out, because I have two left in high school. So I have a 9th grader and I have an 11th grader. So we're almost at the finish line. So, but we had to keep reminding ourselves, what our goals were, what's the end game, and then also being consistent. So the next thing I would say is do your research. So when you feel it impressed upon your heart that you're going to do something different for your child as it relates to education, I would go ahead and start the research immediately. Just get a notebook and start jotting stuff down, doodling ideas, and doing the research. And do it specifically for your state. It's good to get the numbers nationally, but you want to drill those things down for where you live, because that's where it matters. So when we first started, we did the numbers for how many children are homeschooled in North Carolina. We also did how many are homeschooled in our county. We drilled it down to how many are in our city, in like our major city in the capital, and then the surrounding areas. And then we did it, how many are out of the biggest public school system in our state, how many of those children decided not to return and they were being homeschooled or did some, or private school. This numbers, and you're okay with that. You want to do curriculum research. A mistake that I made at the very beginning, we just bought the most popular curriculum, what people were saying. And at that time, it was ABECA. And ABECA curriculum, Christian homeschool, private school curriculum, they have two programs. They have for the Christian private school. They also have the Christian homeschool program. Then also too, BJU was another one, Bob Jones University. They had same thing, private school sect and then homeschool. Those two we went after because they were the most popular, people we were talking to. There is a homeschool curriculum store that just specializes in those two. They have other things too, but those two were like the popular ones, and we bought that. We spent tons of money in the beginning on those curriculums, because I think we did our research somewhat, but not a lot, and it ended up not working for us. Certain subjects in those lines worked for us. For example, we didn't like the ABECA math, but we liked the ABECA language arts. So we bought the whole curriculum kit and only ended up using certain subjects. So it was a lot of money wasted in the beginning. So that's why you have to do your research. Don't get into, what's popular, because, what's popular may not work for your child. And when I say do your research, you know what? You need to do your research on your child too. Because if you do appropriate research on your child, then you're going to know that, hey, this ABECA program is not going to work for her. Or, this ABECA program may work for the one but not the other. So once you decide what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, my next thing would be, don't be so rigid. Just make sure you're able to make the changes that you need along the way. Like, for example, if you find out your schedule is not working, don't be afraid to stop your schedule and do something new. A lot of people get bogged down and go into school like like a public school schedule, Monday through Friday between the hours of 7 and 2. We go to school Monday through Thursday, no school on Fridays, and our instructional time is between 9 and 2. Before and after their independent study, but I actually teach them, or there's a teaching lesson between those hours, 9 and 2. Another thing I wanted to say, guys, it is not cheaper financially to homeschool. It's just not. You know, I mean, for some people it may be, but when I sat down, my friend and I did the research, it is not cheaper to homeschool, because you don't have, some states have state-supported money for people who school at home. In the state of North Carolina, we do not. Now, if you have a special needs child here in North Carolina, you know, there's grant money after that, and we do have special needs children in our homeschool setting. So there's grant money that you can get for that. But I mean, there's money in our state, but you have to find it and go after it, and it's not a lot. In other states, I think the state of, is it Massachusetts, I think? If you choose to, if you're from Massachusetts, you can let me know. But I know, I think it's Massachusetts. I'm not quite sure. But, so do your research. But it's, if you decide to homeschool your child or take them out of public school, that money that's allotted, taxpayer dollars for that child, a portion of it or all of it will go with you. You can use that as well. That is not the case in North Carolina. You know, we have to buy our books. We have to, you know, my husband works outside the home, a full-time job, so thank God we can afford it. You know, but you can do it on a budget. You don't have to buy the most expensive thing. So that's my next thing, you know, is you need to budget. You need to look at the budgetary implications. Some things I can't get around. My daughter has a chemistry co-op this year, and that's $400 that we had to pay. I'm not teaching the chemistry co-op lab portion of that. It's a high intensive lab for 2 semesters, and it's $200 a semester. So that was $400 out of pocket we had to pay. So, and lastly, guys, don't be ashamed. When you decide that you're going to homeschool, stick to what your goals and what you said to do, like I said before, but don't be ashamed when people ask you, oh, your children go to school at home? What? Y'all have school at the house? I mean, I used to get that all the time. And I don't know if it's because of where we live, or, I mean, in other states, it is very popular. It's not a big deal, but early on, about, like I said, almost 10 years ago when we started, it was a huge uphill battle, and the children were ashamed, and people were like, well, where do you guys go to school? And they're like, oh, well, we go to Grace Prep. That's the name of our school. And they're like, well, where is that? Oh, it's at home. They're like, what? You know, people could not put their head around it. So I just had to pull my kids to the side and say, listen, you need to be proud of what we're doing here. Don't be ashamed. Don't let people make you feel a certain way about what we've decided to do, about the school choice that we decided to do. Your friends, you know, they are happy where they go to school, so you need to be happy where you go to school. Don't be ashamed of that, because some people may not understand it, and that's okay. Sometimes when things are different, it makes people uncomfortable, and that's okay. You have to stick to your guns. If you know that this is the best thing for you and your family, because the end goal is the end goal, and if this is the way, the best way to reach that goal, then that's what it is. Don't be ashamed. And it was sometimes my own family members, like at first my mom, she was like, I don't know about that. But as time went on, she really saw that it was the right decision for my children, because my son, who's in college now, he's about to graduate, we hadn't started the school then. He went to public school. He was a junior when we started. So I should have pulled him out at that time, but I didn't. And he finished up in public school, so people were like, well, what happened that you want to do something different? You know, you don't owe anyone an explanation, only yourself. And it's just what it was. People may not, and then the flip side of that, some people were like, oh my God, this is great, give me more, tell me more about it, this might be something I want to do, hence why I'm making this video. But for whatever reason, good or bad, you have to be okay with the decision that you made and not be ashamed of it. Because that's the only way it's going to be successful. We would always tell ourselves we have to believe in what we're doing. Because if we don't believe in what we're doing, nobody else will. The kids won't believe in it. My husband won't believe in it. He wasn't even on board at first. He was like, I don't know. Are you sure? You know, we're a 2-income family. You just gonna walk away from your job? And I did. I walked away. I had some money saved. I had been saving money. I took that savings and started the school. My friend and I, she took her savings and we started our group, our school, and we never looked back. And along the way, other businesses was birthed out of that because we are a 2-income household. And I knew I had to bring money to the table. So I have a degree, so I use that degree. For years, I did, like I told you, I did adult education. So homeschool during the day. At night, I would go teach workshops to daycare providers, to kindergarten teachers, because I was certified to do that. So there's ways to do it. Some people still work full-time during the day, and their children are old enough, like high school age, to stay home to independent study. And then when they come home, they do instructional time at night. So they do instructional time at night, and then the next day would be your homework time. And then when the parent gets home in the afternoon, they check the work and then, start from there. So there's ways around it. And whatever you decide, don't be ashamed of it, because that's what you decide. So guys, I hope this video was helpful. Hopefully it's not too long. I'll try to edit it down so it's digestible. But I hope you guys have a happy back to school season. If you have any other questions, you can hit me up on Instagram. My links are down below or in the comments. But again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.